we're surviving this lockdown again. We're here for another hour of a good chat today. We've got some great guests. First of all, I've just got to mention a few people. SGH Sporting Events, which is where we're coming from here. You know, we can find a lot of information on there with regarding events and so on. Thank you, as always, to the. We've got a new streaming platform, which is Simply Video, and they are helping us out in the background. Thank you, guys, for that. You know, it is the UK equivalent to Zoom. You all know out there we had a few problems last week. So thank you for that. Our sponsor as well today, we've got UGP and Phil Kane. I think he's going to come on a bit later on. But thank you again, Phil, for that, and UGP. Also, we've got to mention the Tiger Woods flag. We've still got the 06 Open flag, which he won. It's £10 entry. You can enter this. It can be shipped anywhere in the world. It's £10. Every penny will go to the NHS. And we've got to thank Lawrence Wells for that. We're aiming to raise £5,000 for that as a target. We're going to do the draw on Friday. So first things first, today we've got our first, as always, our guest in there. We've got Simon Hurd. Hurd, how's things? You okay, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. Yeah, all good. Ready. My electric bike's arrived this morning, so I'm ready to get it logged up, ready, doing me 40 kilometres and 35 of them will be on electric, but that's all right.
Well, keep you fit, mate, won't it? It's better than doing no. It's better than doing no.
Yeah,
and we've got David Lynn coming in a little bit later on. We've got AJ in the background as well, who's also going to come in. But our main guest today, a lot of you out there will be calling him God. We call him Robbie Fowler. Thank you very much for coming on. It's a massive pleasure for us to have you on the show for an hour, mate. We all know you. We all, know your career. We're going to talk a little bit about your career, goals, celebrations. You know, we've got to talk about the Spice Boys as well at some point. But, Rob, how's things with you? How's lockdown? I know you've come over from Australia yourself. How's things with yourself?
All good, mate, yeah. Good to see you, fellas. Anyway, how are you? All right?
Good,
We're really good.
Yeah, well, good. Look, I mean, a little bit of an horrendous journey getting home, but obviously once I knew what was happening, I needed to get back home. Obviously, and be with the family. So, glad I'm home. I had to do the normal 2 week up in the attic, just getting fed up there. So it wasn't too bad. But yeah, we're all not enjoying the lockdown. But look, it's for a good reason why we're doing it. And the sooner we can adhere to all the government guidelines, then we can get out.
Absolutely. And I'm guessing it was your missus who told you to get up there for the extra week as well. Then at the end.
You're not wrong.
First things first, mate. We've got to talk about your career. We're going to go into some stories and things, but we've got to talk about your career. What an unbelievable career you had. With a whole host of top clubs. First of all, a kid from Toxteth who's growing up as an Everton fan as well. Getting into Liverpool and starting your career at Liverpool as a schoolboy coming through. How did that happen? Was it your first choice, or was there other choices around there which you could have gone and joined as a schoolboy as well?
Yeah, well, when you think of kids starting football now, I was maybe. When I say I like developer, I'm probably sort of wrong in terms of me playing in a team. I never played for a team until I was 10, 11 anyway. So I was just actually spotted playing in the school playground. One of the teachers obviously, liked what he saw and put me through for trials for Liverpool Schoolboys. Liverpool Schoolboys was nearly the first team that I played for. I mean, I played in the where I lived. There was like an AstroTurf and a field. And I'll be forever playing, with a lot of kids who are similar age and a lot of kids who are older. And I suppose that sort of helped me develop as a player as well. When you're playing with all different age groups and playing against different types of players, I think that makes you better. But I went to the trials for the schoolboys. And when obviously you play for the schoolboys, there's scouts from all the selected Northwest clubs, i.e. the Liverpools, the Evertons. And the first scout who come up to himself and my dad was a scout called Jim Aspinall, who's sadly no longer with us. And he was just adamant that he wanted me to ply my trade at Liverpool. And look, you're spot on in terms of me growing up as an Everton fan. But I wasn't one of these bitter Everton fans who disliked Liverpool. I appreciate Liverpool. And I think you've got to remember growing up in the 80s, the Northwest football teams, Liverpool and Everton were both brilliant, both as good as each other at that particular time. And my family's mum's side were all Everton fans. They all still are. I know my dad's side of the family were all Liverpool fans. So, I mean, I was brought up with my mum, with mum's side of the family, and obviously I was just integrated towards them. So, people would always think, well, why didn't you sign for Everton? Well, I think I've always had a little bit about me in terms of loyalty, in terms of, look, Liverpool were the first club that came up to me. Jim was scout. And once he come up to me, then he was just adamant that he wanted me to be at Liverpool, and I went there and really looked.
Well, back in them days as well, you just touched on Everton and Liverpool. In them days, I can remember the cup final with they integrated anyhow, didn't they, at that point? So it wasn't a massive thing. I think it's come a little bit more down the line. Starting at Liverpool, going into the schoolboys and things like that. I know what the schoolboy side of things was like. What about yourself down in Liverpool, the schoolboy, going into the schoolboys, getting that apprenticeship? How did you get to know that you were getting that apprenticeship? Or did you know quite early that you were getting the apprenticeship going forward?
Yes, I did actually, because, I was actually, believe this or not, I was actually quite okay. I was top groups. I was quite successful. But I always wanted to be a footballer, and rightly or wrongly, I sort of, when I knew what was happening in terms of football, I sort of let my school and suffer a little bit, which was probably wrong, because when you are on the path to becoming a professional footballer, it can go either way. I was probably one of the fortunate ones. There's there's probably millions of kids who've not been as lucky as me, who have these aspirations of being footballers, but for whatever reason, they haven't sort of made it. But even when I think I was probably in about 40 year school, I'm not even sure what that is in today's terms. I think it's year 10, is it? I don't even know.
I don't know.
I'm old school. I'm 40. Yeah. But I do. So I was offered a 1 year YTS at Liverpool, which is obviously the 1 year apprenticeship and a 3 year professional contract. That was before I left school. So I knew I was going to become a professional, but to the level I was going to get. I wasn't sure. I still needed to obviously work hard, still do all the right things.
And I'm guessing that first year you're on your £29 a week at that point as well. I'm guessing like everybody else was in them days. It's not like it is now.
You must be showing off there. I was on £27.50.
To be fair, we got £32.50. We got a second year's wage the first year. We were well happy.
Look at you. Eddie's showing off here, isn't he?
That's because as I always say, if you've been to Tenerife, he's been to 11 Tenerife.
Yeah, whatever. But going into then, Rob, you made your debut in '93, for Liverpool, and you burst onto the scene at that point, really. How did that feel going on, making your debut? Did you know you were making your debut at that point? When did you find out? What was it? What was that feeling like running out at Anfield and playing in front of the Kop for the first time, as well?
Well, it's funny actually, because you just said I'm obviously based on the scene. I think it's different years ago to what it is now. Obviously, social media plays a lot in, sort of the development of kids, or the development or the hindsight into the players' careers now, where we all know a lot about them before they actually make the debuts. I was around the first team for a good few months actually before I made my debut. Obviously, without playing, I'd be training with the players, training all these great Liverpool players. And actually, the first year of the Premier League, I was actually sub the last game of the season for Liverpool against Tottenham. Liverpool won 6-2. And I actually never got on. And it sounds stupid, it would have been a 6-2 game, but it was actually close. Liverpool scored 3 in the last 5 minutes. So obviously it was 3-2, and I think Graham Souness, the then manager, didn't really want to put me in. He's probably right, to be fair, because I probably wasn't ready. And then after I had to wait till the next year. I went away with England in the summer. Actually done well with obviously a few young Leeds players, after the likes of obviously Kevin Sharp, all good players. We actually won this tournament. I came back to Liverpool and then was just obviously with the first team all the time without playing. Liverpool were probably having a little bit of a tough time, a little bit of a transitional period, shall I say, and they'd lost a few games on a spin. They'd lost away to Everton in the league, and all of a sudden it became this bit of a clamour. This young kid who was scored a few goals in the reserves was about to get the chance. So we went down to Fulham. I didn't really know I was going to play. I sort of had an inkling I was going to be involved, maybe on the bench. Obviously, get down to Fulham, which was my first game, and obviously Graham Souness had read the team out and put me in it. It was a little bit of a surreal moment actually, because when you think of Liverpool and you think of all the great players that we've had over the years. I think proper legends of the game, the likes of Ian Rush, the likes of John Barnes, the likes of Steve Neal, Jan Molby, Ronnie Wheeler, all these great players. So obviously Suey reads the team out, and obviously it's all of a sudden it's Fowler after Rush, and you can imagine it's obviously years and years of hard work, and just then obviously the nerves kick in, and you want to do well, and you're hoping everything sort of falls into place, and thankfully for me it did. I never really looked back. In all honesty, scored a goal and set up two, or had an hand in do the 2 goals in a 3-1 win.
And thinking of them players you just mentioned there, did one of the senior players come up to you and kind of give you that tap on the shoulder to say, look, you're fine, do this, or a bit of advice on that day, to relax, or did anybody in particular take you under your wing on that day itself, or did you just go, look, you're good enough, I'm going to get in there and I'm going to show people what I can do?
Yeah, no, I think it was a case of, look, you're good enough. Everyone was, instead of singling out one player at that particular time, that particular moment, I think it was just a case of, look, we're all in together, and we all, certainly all the senior players sort of looked after me. You've got to remember, I was in the team with obviously Jamie Redknapp and the likes of Steve McManaman, who's obviously a big friend of mine. And they sort of took me under the wing. But then obviously, when I think of Liverpool and, where I was in my career and, the type of player I was, I think it was obvious, I was going to gravitate towards Rushy, because Rushy was brilliant. And not only sort of the advice he gave you, but just like watching him in training as well, just like the runs he made, the way he sort of harried defenders, positions he got into when we had the ball. So I think I was probably, learning from probably one of the not great Liverpool players, but one of the great players in world football. So I was quite fortunate in that front as well.
Fantastic. And then obviously a couple of weeks later you played against Fulham again at home and you scored your first hat-trick at that point as well. So that's what I mean by kind of bursting onto the scene a little bit. Getting your first hat-trick, I'm guessing you've still got that ball somewhere. I'm guessing you still look back on that day itself as well.
Yeah, I do. Look, I get what you're saying in terms of burst on the scene. So, when I go to making my debut at Fulham away, scoring a goal, and I kept my place. So our next game was against Chelsea. It was Chelsea in the league. We lost 1-0. But, again, I played okay and kept my place for the following week, against Fulham. And it's probably a game that, I'm synonymous with, which is ironic considering I've had many good games and many goals. But I think when you think of, obviously, a young 18-year-old kid playing in a game at Anfield, in a professional game, scoring 5 goals, what it was in a 5-0 win, I think, without sounding egotistically, it's quite... it's not a bad stat, is it? When you think of, the history of Liverpool Football Club, I think only 5 players have ever scored 5 goals. And obviously I'm one of them. I'm funny enough, one of the players who played with that night, Ian Rush, was another one. And I do remember after scoring the 5th goal, Rushy coming up to me, and he was the one who told me about only 5 players had scored 5 goals. Well, it was 4 players, and then obviously you're the 5th player. So, and I was thinking, well, I'm newer, so that means I'm better than you. And Rushy went, well, it doesn't work like that. So, obviously,
did you have a chance for Citra?
I've just scored 5 goals for Liverpool in a proper professional game. And my head's huge. I'm walking around the pitch thinking, I'm the best player I've ever lived. I've missed a few more chances. The referee blows for full time, goes in the dressing room after the game, and I'm sitting there. I'm waiting for all the coaches, the managers, all the players to tell me I'm the best player I've ever seen. But Ronnie Moran, quick as a flash, just turned around to me and he went, "Should have had 6, you spotty little get." Absolutely. I think from that moment, I realised that you could never ever be bigger than playing for Liverpool.
And and rest on your morals as well, because you had so many great players in that team and also so many great players behind you. You talk about Rushy a little bit there. I'm guessing Rushy was, you're saying there, a little bit of an idol. I know Rushy as well, and he was such a down-to-earth kind of guy. Did you take that, and so relaxed on the football pitch, did you take a lot from what Rushy was doing from years going back to going through? And I'm guessing you still spoke to him. I know you still speak to him now, but through the rest of your playing career as well, and take advice maybe from him a little bit?
All the time, every single day with Rushy, to be fair. And I touched on it before, where you're watching him as well, and in terms of when he's not talking and you as a player wanting to grow, and and want to change and want to develop. Well, these are the type of players that you watch and you pick up on little traits that they've got and try and sort of emulate and do what you need to do. I mentioned before about growing up in the 80s and me being an Everton fan. I mean, my two favourite players were Graham Sharp and Trevor Stephen, both different players. One was obviously a striker, one was a tricky winger, could beat players of fun. But I used to love Rushy in terms of growing up because I knew what type of player he was, and him, seeing him in the papers and on Match of the Day and all these programmes all the time, scoring goals. I don't think you can never fail from learning off him. So fortunate enough for me, I got the chance to do this every single day. Training and watching him. Training at the side of the pitch, watching what he could and couldn't do. Then obviously getting to play with him and learning that valuable bits of advice in that way as well. And again, you touched upon it yourself, Andy, where I'm quite close to Rushy now, and I would class him as a real good friend. So we speak to each other quite a lot actually. So he's a good pal.
Fantastic. Going into the next year, then 94-95, a really successful year, really, wasn't it? You got the PFA Player of the Year that year. You scored up 10 goals. You've got everything about that year really. Got a trophy in there as well. It kind of really put yourself. I think you played every game that year as well, if I remember rightly. So 94-95 was really your full season in the Premiership. How hard was that as a young kid coming through, or do you just keep going as you do and the players keep behind you?
Yeah, look, I mean, again, I was fortunate enough to be playing with all these good players, as I've said before. But look, I still know that I've got to do what I need to do in terms of, trying to be better and trying to emulate all these good players of the past. And look, I was, and regardless of what people think about me and, he's this happy-go-lucky character or, he's always messing, I would mess, don't get me wrong, I would mess at times because I think dressing rooms need that. I think dressing rooms need a little bit of a character, if you like, and someone who can, make people laugh, someone who can be a little bit of a joker, if you like. And it takes away a little bit of the mundane stuff of the seriousness every single day because, look, being involved in dress rooms, not everything is black and white. There's things that go on and behind closed doors that not necessarily get out. So I think you need this group of lads to be all together. You need to have a good mix of we'll have the serious ones, we'll have the professional, we'll have the lads who can have a laugh and a joke. But I knew when I needed to be serious, I was the ultimate professional. I was quite relaxed in terms of getting ready for games. I never really wanted to focus that much on the game until I was needed to. So I'd go away, I'd train, I would do what I needed to that way. But then come game days, all through my career and not just early, I like to be relaxed as much as possible. Getting ready for games. Whereas, for example, if you're kicking off at 3 o'clock on a Saturday, a lot of players will go in the dressing room at maybe 1:15, 1:30, and have the full kit on. Now, I didn't really like that because for me that was you were focused on the game too much, and I think sometimes if you focus on things too much, I think you can sort of get a little bit over, your thoughts going everywhere, and you can think about things too much, and I think that can have a real adverse effect on the way you perform or the way your game sort of develops. So I just wanted to go in there, and we'd go out for a warm up at 2:25. I would go into the lounge, I'd be with my mates, I'd be with my family, and then I'd come into maybe the dressing room probably about 2:15 and start getting ready and start getting focused for the game. So I knew that was what worked for me, and I knew that was best for me. And I think that helped me sort of develop as a player and grow into the team. Whereas some players are totally different. Some players would need to be focused a lot earlier. But I think I had the ability just to go out there and maybe just forget about this and concentrate on this and do what I needed to do when I needed to do it.
And did you do that from an early age then? Because going into a first team dressing room and coming in at 2:15 and getting ready at that point must, for a lot of pros, would be a bit of a kind of an eye opener for them, for a young kid to come in and do that. Did you do that all the way through, from a kid all the way through to being in the first team dressing room?
Yeah, look, players would get dressed. I wanted to go and concentrate and focus on other things. So don't get me wrong. I think when you first go into the dressing room, you sort of do it because you're eager and You dress before everyone else. As soon as the managers read the team out, you dress because you're that eager. But then I think when you sort of do it a little bit more, and when you're involved in dressing rooms, I think you have to try and find out what works best for you. And look, I just felt this works best for me. I didn't want to concentrate too much on the game before. So I knew that I could go away, do what I needed to do, and then come back and then focus and then get my mind occupied and ready for what I needed to do. Look, not everyone would be the same.
I was going to say, who's the strangest person to have the strangest kind of setup before a game? What you remember?
Well, I think at Liverpool, lots of different characters. John Barnes used to get a hot bath before every game. John Barnes, Bruce Grobbler, he would bounce the ball, superstitious every game, where he would bounce the ball in front of the light and he'd need to turn the light off in the dressing room. And that was like a bit of a ritual with him. Go back obviously later, Paul Ince wouldn't go out for a warm-up. He'd just stay there and obviously do his stretches. There's lots of different things. I think football now has changed to what it was years ago, whereas years ago, again, we would go out and would maybe do our individual warm-ups. But nowadays, it's all team-orientated, where everyone does the set routine. Whereas I remember years ago, me just going out with Steve McManaman and just messing about, just getting our legs relaxed and, just doing headers and volleys into the cop end. That's always...
They're always the best warm-ups, then.
Yeah, it was,
just try to ping somebody in the cop. Absolutely brilliant.
Obviously, I was just interested in scoring early. That's all I want to do. So I get Macca just go on the outside and just cross them in. And I'd just be running in. It's probably the worst warm-up ever. You can be telling this to kids, but if Mac could go in and just cross the ball, and I would just run in and either headed them or volley them and try and sort of put them into top corners or bottom corners.
It's always the best. It's always the best.
One of the lads were asking me when I would have growing up with Cuz and Whelan and Sharp and all these lads, you sign as a YTS or whatever the right word is, and then you get paid. They were getting paid more money to play in the first team. Was your contract like that or were you signed up as a professional very quickly, or were you? Sharpie was saying that he got 250 quid off Man United when he played for England. It was that small, you know what I mean?
Oh no, God no! I was none of that. I think. You got to remember, Sharpie signed from a club anyway, didn't he? He signed from Torquay, so his contract would have been probably different. I think me sort of growing up, I think when you're playing for England, I think that's. It's not even in the thoughts, is it? You're not even thinking about that. My first contract was, I think it was 27.50. I think maybe Andy was probably spot on. I think I went up to 29.50 the second year, but I was lucky enough because I went from 27.50, I think, to £200 for my first contract. Yeah. So I was a 1 year YTS and then a 3 year professional, and every year it went up. Obviously, every year it went up. Not by much, but it was a professional contract. There was no stipulations in terms of, look, if you play for England, you can have this amount of money. I never even thought about it or even envisaged that, to be honest. I was just happy
even
with
first team appearances, there were no difference. That's what you got paid.
I think when you're signing the contract, you more or less know that the club would look after you anyway. So obviously I'm on a relatively small contract anyway, and I still remember now. Whereas I think my first car was an A-Reg Escort, and being a YTS money, couldn't afford it, so I had to get a loan from the bank and spent £800 on this heap of crap. It was rubbish. it was beige with a brown interior. It was rancid to look at. I used to come out at the lights. And I remember making my debut in Liverpool and driving up in this A-Reg rubbish car and all the rest of the lads have all got all the top car. I tell you how bad my car was, right? I used to lend my uncle's Maestro, right? Sometimes I was embarrassed about. But I was embarrassed about my Escort. And honestly, it was. I couldn't even afford the car. So when you're playing for the first team, you more or less know that the club are going to look after you. So I was relatively young age playing for the first team, and I played a few games, and the club straight away looked after me, and I was quick to sign a new 5-year contract.
And I think that's
on a little bit more than £200 a week.
The young kids now, I read they're on 10, 20 grand a week, and they're just they're not even playing in the first team. I mean, does that help them? Do you think, Rob, now, or do you think they've got to? I mean, we're old school, but when we say old school, we're only 45. But what's your feeling there, mate?
It's a tough one, isn't it? Look, I would never sort of argue with players, and I remember sort of having a conversation with Alex Inglethorpe, who's the head of the academy, and one of my gripes was seeing kids with with all these fancy cars. And you know what? I sat down and had a good chat with him, and I listened to what he said, and he made a real good point. And the fact is that when I listened to him, I thought, you know what? He's probably spot on. So kids who relatively got a little bit more money and they're spending more on cars. But you know what? Them cars are a little bit safer than the heaps that we used to buy anyway.
Absolutely.
So, and when he put it like that, I went, you know what? It's actually a good point. So, should kids be getting that amount of money? Probably not, in all fairness. But you know, if you're not giving it as a club, someone else will look at it. I think things may be changing now, obviously, with what's happening, and contracts not just for first team players, but I think for kids sort of on the periphery of first team football anyway. I think their contracts will change. But look, if you as a club or you as a manager of that club are not giving these players contracts, then unfortunately the way football is, someone else will give it to them. And that's just the way football's gone.
Well, the football went that way along with the Sky and everything else, didn't it? It was one of them things. I think, we're all the same. Talk about Tink Sharpie and people like that, and Snowy down at Leeds, and myself, we were exactly the same as what you were, Rob, really. My car wouldn't start. I had a starting motor, which I had to park it on a corner to get the longest run down. And these kids don't realise that, you jumpstart your car to actually get going.
I bet you had a choke. You talk about chokes on
I did,
cars
yeah.
now. I bet none of the kids know what choke is, did it?
Oh, choker.
Exactly. We all had a choke on our cars, and if it was cold in the morning, you were knackered. Rob,
exactly.
Going into Euro 96, it's first big tournament. Away, obviously in the country and everything else. 96, obviously, we see Gaza missed by an inch. What's your recollection of the Euro 96 from your first tournament with the lads all together for 3, 4, 5, nearly 5 weeks, I would say, going into it? With Venables, Gaza, Sheringham, you had a great team, a couple of young lads in there with Neville as well, both in there. What was your first impressions of that?
Well, I mean, obviously, I loved it. I think when you think about England, and I mean, I'd scored almost 100 goals before I got my first cap. I think nowadays, if you're an English player and you're playing in the Premier League and you play 2 or 3 games, I think you're more or less guaranteed an England cap. So I was probably unfortunate where I had to wait 3 years before I actually made my debut for England. Obviously, and then being involved with that squad, I think obviously nearly winning it. I think we probably should have won it, in all fairness. Yeah. But when I sort of think back to what that tournament was, and I mean, we were just isolated ourselves in the hotel, so we couldn't do nothing other than just stay in the hotel. We'd go out to train and we'd go back. So we sort of missed out on a lot. We'd read the papers, obviously we'd see the television, but we missed out on the furore of what was happening in the country, because obviously we were just a little bit isolated, and we had to do what we had to do. So I probably missed that. But we knew we had to do a job, and you mentioned obviously good characters in that particular time, the likes of Gaza, obviously Terry, big mates with a few of the other players in the squad, i.e. Stevie Mack and Jamie Redknapp. But it was a real good time. A real good a time that we had together. We were developing as players. We were trying to do what we needed to, in terms of helping England win this tournament. But when you think back of the overall tournaments, and I know people deem it as a huge success. I think we drew the first game. I think we beat Scotland, we beat Holland, we drew with Spain, and we lost to Germany. So England only won 2 games that tournament, which is obviously take away the penalties, obviously, but I mean, it's actually quite mad when you think of it that way, isn't it? But it was a time when the whole country just got behind football, and the whole country game, and it was a chance for us to maybe get, not just as players, but as a team, to sort of get on the world stage again.
And you talk about there the Holland game. I think was that game, because that was, for me, one of the best England performances I've seen certainly in a tournament, but in general, when you came out of that as a team in the dressing room, did you have another confidence was sky high? Did you think then, look, this is our chance, this is something which we can go on and do?
I think so. I think the first game we drew 1-1 with Switzerland, and it was obviously I think it was a bit of a drab game, to be fair. Obviously getting that point, sort of going to what we then we know, obviously beating Holland, which people still talk about, and rightly so, about that performance. The goals, Terry Sheringham laying her off for Alan Shearer. It's probably as good as performance that I've seen an England team play. I came on. Again, I was a young kid. I played in 2 games actually, Holland and Spain. Was come on. So me coming on and playing a little bit of a part in that game was obviously great for me as well.
And looking at your England career, 26 games, appearances. For me, I think you would have had 100 caps plus if there wasn't the likes of Shearer around. Do you feel that yourself? Do you feel that you would have had in a different area? You would have had a lot more caps in that situation.
Yeah, definitely. I think with I touched upon it before where I'd scored almost 100 goals before I got my first cap. I had 20. I thought I had 27, but you're probably spot on. 26 caps. I only started 12 games for England, which is. Wow. Which is poor, considering the type of player I was. But look, I look back at my England career and not too fondly, in all honesty, because I never played. I think if I went down there and played, a load of games, I think it's different. But I always felt on the periphery, so I didn't really enjoy going down. I wanted to play football. I wanted to go and be involved all the time. And for me to go down and be part of a squad, I didn't really like it. So, I didn't enjoy my England career for that reason, and only the reason that I never played.
Yeah. Do you think there was a little bit of... We had this a bit earlier in the week. Do you think there was a little bit of the Liverpool, the Manchester Uniteds, there was a bit of a divide between the teams because everybody was vying for the league. Do you think that got into the England setup as well?
Look, I can't speak for everyone else. I can obviously speak for myself. And look, what I will say, it didn't affect me. I went there, and regardless, you've got to remember, I've played with under 18 teams, under 21 teams, with the likes of Nicky Butt, the likes of Paul Scholes, the likes of Beck. So I was not interested in just because you're Man United and I'm Liverpool. I went there, and as far as I was concerned, we were the one team. Now, I know a lot of people have made a big thing about, you went and sat with the Liverpool lads. Well, obviously, I'm going to sit with the Liverpool lads because they're all my mates. When we go and
absolutely,
then you're going to sit with them. It doesn't necessarily because I'm sitting with them. It doesn't mean that I dislike them. It's about being professional, and when you're on the pitch or the training pitch, then you're doing things right. But and I know people have said different things in the past, but I can honestly say, from my point of view, I wasn't interested. I wanted to do well, obviously, and it was it was a team game. So. It didn't really sit nice or sit well with me that, people said, because I never seen it. Because, as far as I was concerned, we were all fighting for the same thing and we all wanted to, be what was best. Now, I can't tell you what the Man United players thought. I can't tell you what my other teammates thought. But I would be amazed if, if most of them said, well, look, if that was the case,
And yeah, you're right. 100 goals. I think you got 100 goals in 2 or 3 years, haven't you? So it's it's a lot of goals very, very quickly, Rob. You just end up you kept on scoring. Got to talk about the quick hat trick against Arsenal. We're going back a little bit, but the quick hat trick against Arsenal. I can remember watching that game. We all had our baggy shirts and all that kind of stuff. The shirt would have gone down to your feet at that point, I think. What do you recommend? What's your recollection of that one? It was. I think I've got it down as something like 4 minutes, 4 minutes 30 seconds. It must be an amazing feeling to have that against one of your major rivals. And how did that come about in the dressing room, the lads, and everything which went after that as well?
Well, again, this is. I remember everything about the goals, but other than the goals, I do not remember anything about the game. I know the game finished 3-0, and I know. When I'd scored these goals, I think that was, the game put to bed. But when you think as a young kid playing against a team that consisted of at least 4 of the four of the four of the best defenders, if you like, in football at the time. 4 England internationals at the back, including the keeper. So for me as a young kid to score a goal against an Arsenal team who were worldly known as having a real tight defence, I think was special. At the time, I didn't realise the significance. I didn't realise it was as quick as what it was. I think it was 4 minutes 33 seconds exact, and it was just a case of look, this has happened, and I was obviously delighted and glad that it was a Premier League record for over 20 years. Unfortunately for me, and it was broken by Sadio Mane, who scored 3 in 2.5, 3 minutes against an Arsenal team. But as far as I'm concerned, mine was better because it was against a tough Arsenal defence, whereas Sadio Mane's was against a poor Aston Villa team. But mine felt better. And I've actually told Sadio this as well, so he knows. He agrees with me.
Absolutely. Going forward a little bit, we 2001, 2002 season, Gerard Houllier, start of the season. He didn't pick you for the first game, for the Charity Shield, I believe. You left at the end of that season, but you had a really successful season that season, as in Liverpool Football Club with 3 trophies. Talk to us a little bit about that season, Rob. Because it was your career at Liverpool was coming to the end at that point. You most likely didn't know that, but you left at the end of that year. Tell us a little bit about that season.
Yeah, again, I mean, from a personal point of view, I think it was a bit of a bittersweet season because obviously I didn't play as many games as what I would have wanted. I spoke before about me wanting to play all the time. Again, you're probably coming to an area where football's changing. Football is, you're getting more players in a squad. Manager will have certain ideas, certain formations, certain ways of the way you wanted to play. And I knew when I was playing, I would do a good job. So when I played, did let anyone down, scored goals. But look, Gerard Houllier was the manager. He had other ideas. Obviously, he wanted to play others. But obviously, still played my fair share. More than helped in what was a massively successful season for Liverpool and one of the best seasons in the history. In all fairness, in terms of the trophies that we won. For us as a team to go unbeaten in every single cup competition that year was frightening. Win every cup competition that we entered was incredible. But what capped it off was getting into the Champions League as well, which Liverpool hadn't done that for a few years. But winning all the cups, we beat Arsenal in the cup on the Saturday. The Wednesday we beat Alaves in the UEFA Cup, and on the Sunday we needed to beat Charlton away. Charlton away at that particular time was a tough game. I don't think we had a great record there as a Liverpool team. And ironically, it was either us or Leeds who can qualify for the Champions League, and we knew that we needed at least a point. I think we needed to win the game because I think Leeds had a relatively winnable game. I think at home against Ipswich, and I think Leeds won 2-0, so that meant we had to win, and we ended up winning. So not only did we win all the cups, and all the cups that we entered, I scored in the League Cup final, and I scored in the UEFA Cup final. I came on when we were 1-0 down in the FA Cup final, so again played a massive part. But I think capping the season off by beating Charlton 4-0, to qualify for the Champions League, made the season that little bit more better, a little bit more sweeter.
And obviously from then it was sweet at that point, but then you went to a proper club then, Rob. We'll talk about Hurd, me and Hurd are there. We've got to talk about Leeds in that sense. 12, sold to Leeds for 12 million. There must have been a handful of clubs, around the world who wanted to sign Robbie Fowler at that point. Why did you choose Leeds at that point?
Well, I think quite simply, I thought Leeds were a good team, and I thought Leeds were, on the cusp of obviously doing great things. I think when you mentioned about the clubs coming in for me, I know for a fact Liverpool had tried to sell me, and they kept denying it. And this is one of the reasons why I'd fall out with Gerard Houllier as well, because he kept denying that Liverpool were trying to sell me. And I knew from first hand the clubs had obviously contacted me direct and said, look, we've had permission, we've had a bid accepted. So obviously Aston Villa, were a club that tried to sign me. I spoke to Gianluca Vialli, who was at Chelsea, and he told me that the club had accepted a bid. and I wasn't interested in going, to be fair. But and then I was just obviously there or thereabouts at Liverpool and training ground, and wasn't playing. And then all of a sudden Leeds came in for me. There'd been a little bit of a talk, in the papers that Leeds were interested. And obviously once he came in, I sort of knew that my days were numbered at Liverpool. I knew that for my own sanity I needed to leave. And look, this had nothing to do with Leeds. I didn't really want to leave Liverpool for the simple fact that I'm a Liverpool lad and wanted to play. But when Leeds came in, it just seemed a good fit because Leeds were on the cusp and I wanted to play and I had a chance of maybe going to win other things as well. So I think once I knew Leeds were interested, and I think it was a relatively easy decision because of what I've just said, and also the simple fact is I knew that Liverpool were trying to get rid of me. So it ended up being my decision to leave in the end, and I'm glad I went to Leeds because look, I don't think Leeds are, and people will know this, Leeds aren't as big as Liverpool, don't get me wrong, but Leeds are an absolute huge club, club that I think deserves and needs to be in the Premier League. And look, me going there at that particular time was good. I enjoyed it. Probably only had a year in me. Fortunately, I was injured a lot of the time. I think I played 24 games in that year and scored 12 goals. So I went there and I've done okay. I didn't set the world alight, in all fairness, but I don't think I let anyone down. I went there and scored goals, and I think my goals per game were 1 and 2. So I enjoyed my time at Leeds. It was a real good club with a good bunch of players, good lads.
I was just about to say, Rob, you've got 30 appearances with 14 goals, so you're spot on there. It's Leeds at that time needed a goal scorer, and
it must have been 24 starts. Then I went to start.
I'm going from appearances. Wikipedia, and it tells us everything, Rob. You should know this. Tells you everything. Obviously, then you went to Man City, and Man City were on the crust then at that point. They were just about to take off. I think your last year was at Main Road as well, wasn't it? Or your first year, at Man City was at Main Road, and then into the new stadium. Did you see the change in that club happening very early on when you went to Man City?
Look, I think the change was happening before I got there, in all fairness. I think Kevin Keegan was the manager. I think he tried to get a good team, good team of players, if you like, players who could maybe win games with a little bit of a drop of his shoulder, or beating a player here and there. So I think he had the makings of a good team, certainly when I got there. But it's not. It wasn't. Let's be honest. It's not the team that we see. So I think the owner was, the owner of City. Obviously, he was. I think he was involved with. I'm not sure whether JD Sports. I think so. And he was obviously putting fine players and obviously trying to get them to the next stage. But look, when I went to City again, it was probably because I was enjoying my time at Leeds, and I remember Leeds being in a little bit of a financial difficulty, and they needed players off the books. And I remember going to Man City. I remember sitting in the scanner machine for half an hour and hearing this, all this noise from the scanner. And I'm thinking, when I'm in there, I'm thinking, well, I actually don't really want to leave Leeds. So I went back to Leeds, and I actually said to him I didn't want to go. And one of the directors just turned around. He went, look, this club's going under, so you might have to go. So I knew I had to go then. And look, it was, at first, I didn't enjoy my time at Leeds because I don't know whether I was injured, whether I was obviously in the right, the frame of mind, to be playing mentally. I don't know, but eventually I got to enjoy it. I really did, and my football improved. I was getting better, towards what it was at the start when I first got there. I think, I thought it was an achievement for me. I think the second or the third year, it might have been the third year, I actually was voted either 2 or 3 and played a year by the fans, and that meant a lot to me, that, because I knew I'd struggled maybe the first year anyway, at Main Road, and then obviously all of a sudden we go to this City of Manchester Stadium, which is the stadium that it now, and you could see the club was getting better all the time. And obviously I went back to Liverpool, but then you see obviously people coming in, the Thai owner, and then obviously the current owners. So the development from City to what it was then to what it is now I think it's quite extraordinary, in all fairness.
No, absolutely. And then, was it a dream move back to Liverpool then at the end of the career, really? Was it something how did that come about? Because normally people at the end of their careers don't go to, like, no disrespect, but going to Liverpool and being where they were at that time as well, you going into that Liverpool team, how did that come about? And was it a dream come true to go back and play back at Liverpool?
Definitely. Look, I think my first spell at Liverpool, I came off at half-time against Sunderland. I think we had a man sent off, and obviously Gerard Houllier brought me off. So I never even got to say, a proper goodbye. So obviously Leeds came in, and I was away on the Monday, and I've just obviously cut it all time. And then getting back was, for me, it was the best moment, my best moment in football, getting back. And, that's no disrespect to Leeds or Man City, but it was a club that I didn't really, really want to leave in the first place. Just getting a chance to go. You think, a year before they just won the Champions League. They did 2005. I was at Man City as a Man City player. I went over to Istanbul, and obviously just various Liverpool games. Albeit the Champions League semi-finals, games against Chelsea, where after the game, I'd meet Rafa in a bar or a restaurant. I say a bar. Rafa wouldn't go to a bar, in a restaurant, I should say. I'd sort of told him how much Liverpool meant to me, and I don't know whether he sort of knew, firsthand what the club meant to me. And I think the year after, Liverpool were having a little bit of a transitional period again. Fortunately for me, as much as they were a good team, the likes of Morientes was there, Djibril Cissé, all good players. But unfortunately for them, at that particular time, he was struggling to score goals. So I think Rafa needed someone to come in and maybe give the dressing room a little bit of a lift. And I came in and again done okay. I hit the ground running. Scored, I think, 5 goals. I initially signed for a 6-month contract. And scored 5 goals in towards the end of the season. I had, I think, 3 goals disallowed before I actually got my first goal. Ironically against Fulham again. But I came back and just enjoyed it more. And I think, in all fairness, I appreciated Liverpool a lot more than what I did the first time round, because I think I'd never known anything different. I never knew what the other side of the fence was like. Yeah. I'd been brought up at Liverpool. I mentioned the School of Excellence, which was the academy. Playing for the B team, the A team, the reserves, the first team. And in all fairness, I probably took it for granted. And then getting a chance to go back to Liverpool and seeing what other clubs were like, but then seeing firsthand what Liverpool was like, I think I enjoyed it and I embraced it a little bit more. And I sort of knew my role. I knew I wasn't going to play, as many games as what, but I understood and appreciated that. And I think my mentality on the game, I'd probably changed a lot as well. Whereas I knew I wasn't going to, be playing all the time. But what I will say is, I think my goals per games in my second spell was very good as well. And I've read various reports and people saying, I was a bit of a failure the second time at Liverpool, and it was far from it. But I went in there to maybe change the dynamics of the dressing room, score goals, and give everyone a little bit of a lift. And I think I'd done that. The 2007, the following year, we got to the Champions League again. So as far as I was concerned, my second spell at Liverpool was a huge success as well.
Well, I think everywhere you went, Robbie, nobody can say that anything about your goal scoring record. It's second to none in there. Hurdy, you've got. We normally do a quiz at this point, Rob. So we've got Hurdy's quiz coming up, and we've got 5 questions for you. So I'm going to pass over to Hurdy, and he's going to go from here.
So all the lads we have on, Bob, we ask them a bit about where they're from, and we know you're a Scouser through and through. So
hang on, Eddie, before we carry on, Eddie, before we carry on, when are we getting me Drew Belt, by the way? When am I getting me Drew Belt? I've only done this for a Drew Belt.
It's on its way through the post, kid. Don't worry, slow post, it'll there. It'll come from a boat down, it'll come through the Mersey there. Right, you ready?
Go on then, go on.
I'm gonna wind you up here. Clock face on the Liver building, or is it called Liver?
Liver.
The Liver, I'm only joking. Is it true or false? Bigger than the clock face of Big Ben? Is it bigger or smaller than the clock face of Big Ben? True or false?
No. I think it's bigger. It is a bit bigger. I think, in fact, I think it's the biggest in the UK, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely right, Robbie. Perfect. True is the correct answer. Right, next question.
Here's one for you. I don't know if this is a question.
Go on.
Here's one for you. You know the two liver beds on top of that liver building? They've actually got names, by the way.
They have got names.
Got names. I think it's Bella and Bertie, I think. Bella and Bertie.
No,
honestly. And Liverpool one's looking out to sea, and the other liver bird is looking over the city to keep it safe.
Oh well.
If there's somebody on Facebook, we can.
Come on.
Bella and Bertie. Bella and Bertie. Look, you learned something new. Eddie, I'm not just a pretty face, you know.
I know that, mate. I've spent plenty of time with you, and you're much cleverer than people give you respect for, that is for sure. Grand National has how many fences? 30, 29 or 28?
God. Well, what type of question is that?
I'm giving you 3 options. You've got a 33.3 chance. Come on, son. 30, 29 or 28?
You know, I've just a real stab at 30.
30, good stab. I'm going to have a bet with you tomorrow. 30 is correct.
Will it be on the footy?
No, exactly. No, you're not allowed to bet on that. The world's first crossword was published by a man from Liverpool. What year was it? By Arthur Wayne, another guess this will be. 1913, 1915 or 1918? Believe it or not, it was a scouser who brought out the first crossword. 13, 15 or 18? Come on,
I'm not being funny.
Son.
What a ridiculous question this is.
A good thing is I ask him.
Was it 1913, 1915 and 1918, you say?
Correct. Yeah.
Well, it's certainly not the last one. I'd go with the middle one.
1915 is wrong. 1913. Right, one you'll know now, mate.
I knew it wasn't the last one.
What year was... What year was John Lennon killed? 1980, 79 or 78?
Yeah, I know that one. That's 1980. Outside the Dakota building in New York.
Exactly right. And they were killed by... Do you remember who they were killed by?
Yeah, it was
not a
Mark
question, but you remember?
Mark Chapman.
Absolutely right. Absolutely.
It was in December as well.
Liverpool was...
Go on, Rob.
It was in December, yeah. I think he got bulleted 3 or 4 times and sadly, as we all know, bled to death by some... There was no reason for it. Was it just a fruitcake? What was the story to it? Do you remember it?
One of them stalker fans, wasn't
he? Yeah.
Oh, was it? Stalker fan, was it? Yeah, mental. Liverpool was founded when?
Liverpool the city, or?
No, Liverpool Football Club. Sorry, mate. When was it founded?
How can a city be founded?
Liverpool.
Right, Liverpool was founded in 1892.
Correct and right. Do you know how it got founded? I'm going to give you a bit of a stat here. You might be. You probably.
Yeah, no, I do know actually.
Magnuson, but
yeah, it was. The old Liverpool. Well, the old was a fellow called John Holding, who owned Anfield. And Everton were the tenants, and John Holding put the rent up, and Everton moved because obviously they didn't want to pay him more money. So Liverpool was founded on that basis. Is that right?
Absolutely spot on, Bob. That is what I'm going to do every show. We've got Will Carlin on tomorrow. You're going to do the quiz, all right?
I've got one for you, Eddie.
This is good one.
Go on, then.
Go on.
Right, I'll give you one. So, Kenneth Dalglish wore the 7 shirt for Liverpool the longest. Ian Rush wore the 9 shirt for Liverpool the longest. Who wore the number 8 shirt for Liverpool the longest?
McManaman.
No.
McManaman, no. Number 8 shirt.
And it wasn't Steven Gerrard.
What?
It was Sammy Lee. Sammy Lee, down to his knees.
Sammy Lee, was he?
Legend.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, little Sammy Lee.
Down to his knees.
Right, this
Come on,
one's
Eddie.
close. This one's. Go on, exactly. Sammy Lee. Is that right?
Well, it's a joke, but obviously it didn't go down well, did it?
Oh, no.
Sammy Lee down to his knees because Sammy Lee's too good.
Yeah, I know he's a tiny little fella. Yeah, sorry. It must. I don't get Liverpool jokes on him. Right, okay. Royal Liverpool. This is a close one to your heart, Bob. Royal Liverpool was held, as we know, the Open Championship was there. What year was it? You remember what year it was?
It was
when they had the Open at Royal Liverpool.
Yeah, 2. So
the last one. The last one.
Oh God. 2004, 2014, I think, wasn't it?
Yep. Yeah.
That was Rory. Was the other one? Rory won it, didn't he, in 2014? Rory McIlroy.
Tiger won it the one before, didn't he?
Yeah, was that in 2006?
Rory McIlroy, I think. Yeah, that was 6 as well. Yeah. How many shots did he win by? You remember?
Who? Rory?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
He had a 6-shot lead going into the last round, Rob.
Yeah, no, I think he only won by 2 in the end, didn't he? Was he 17 under?
Yeah. Yeah, it was 2 shots. I mean, by the way, everyone listening, I have not given Robbie any information. It sounds like I've bummed up the mate. I've not bummed him up. And then
just a golfing geek.
Ricky Fowler and Sergio. Yeah, exactly. No, he's got amazing stats, Rob, as we found out. Ricky Fowler and Sergio came second. There's another one here. There's a famous, 50. Famous golfer came from Bootle. He was born in 1982. He's retired now. Who is it? So he's 38 now. He won 3 or 4 times on tour.
A famous golfer from Bootle?
Golfer. Yeah, born in Bootle. Lived, I think he was like one of them Michael Owens, a bit out of town after he kind of grew up a bit. Yeah, Bootle born. 38-year-old retired.
Is his initial, does it begin with S?
No, it begins with his ND.
Oh, yeah, God, yeah. He works for Sky now, doesn't he?
Correct.
I didn't know he was born in Bootle. He talks far too posh to be from Bootle.
When we were younger. And I've got one more question for Andy Cousins here. What is scouse? What is it?
It's a food. It's like a stew.
Yeah, but what type? Absolutely correct. What sort of stew? I read lamb. Is that right, Bob?
Well, you can have whatever you want in it, to be fair. Do you know where scouse comes from? It's actually Norwegian, you know. And it was like the Vikings, when it was actually called a lop or lopscouse years ago. And obviously it was shortened to scouse. So it was, I think it was a Norwegian dish initially.
There you go. You see, you learn something new every day.
Last one. We've got a young lad. Is he there, Hayden? His dad's sponsored today. Thanks for that.
No, it's not yet.
We're just going to do AJ with the question and answers. So, AJ, you've got a few questions for Rob from our social media, from Facebook and Twitter and stuff. So off you go, AJ.
Yeah, morning, Bob.
How are you, pal? Good afternoon, anyway. I mean, it was more than when we started.
Right, listen, just a few quick questions on social media. Sam Walker says, what was your best goal ever?
Oh, God. You know what? I actually don't know. I think being a Liverpool player, I think any goal against Man United or Everton would probably be up there. But I don't know. I mentioned before about my goal against, the game against Charlton, which we won 4-0. I think my favourite goal was probably the first goal in that game, because obviously what it was and the significance for it, and helped us to go on. And so I don't know if anyone remembers it, but it was a corner that got sort of headed away, me running away from goal, and just sort of hooked it back over my head into the corner. That was probably my favourite goal, actually, just for the simple fact of what it was and the significance and the reasoning behind it.
Okay, thanks, Rob. And then Josh Crumpton asks, what does it feel like when fans chant your name on the pitch? Does it actually inspire you, or Does it give you a bit of energy? Just what's it feel like when your name's being chanted?
Well, it depends what they're chanting for, doesn't it? I mean, I've been on the end of the both battles, so I think, listen, when it's for you, I don't think there's anything better. I think the good players can just black it out or blank it out when when it's obviously a little bit of an adverse shouting. So you tend to sort of ignore that. You become one-dimensional and focus on what you're doing. But I think being a professional footballer, the fans chanting your name on a positive, one of the best feelings ever.
All right, thanks, Bob.
AJ,
and then
AJ, this is a great chant. Sorry, AJ, this is a great chant. Sorry to stop you. I remember being at a game before.
Oh.
We've lost him. Oh, no, hang on.
Oh, hang on. Junior's there.
I think we've just brought Aidan in, that's all. That's why that's come in. So,
all right.
just say again. Go on, give us your chant.
I think Aidan's gone for a second. No. Bob, listen, Ben Hortrop asks, what advice do you have for children or youngsters coming through the game nowadays? What would be one bit of wisdom you'd impart?
Well, look, I think the obvious ones, look, to practice as much as you can, both feet. And obviously the other one is, look, you've got to listen to your coaches. Don't be thinking you've made it. Don't be thinking you've ever made it. I think to be a good player, I think you've always got to progress and you've always got to grow. I think you've got to listen to advice from, obviously, not only your players, your teammates, but also your coaches is massively important. So, look, don't be thinking you know everything. Listen to the coaches. They know far more than what you know. And keep progressing and keep trying to do the things that necessarily get you into that position anyway. So, looking, for example, you always see a lot of kids who say, well, listen, you got to practice on, your so-called weaker foot. Practice on your so-called weaker foot, but also keep practicing on your strengths as well. Keep it in the ball, keep it in the back of the net. Keep if you're right-footed, keep working on that right foot. Keep practicing your drills, your turns, your technique. And as much as people say, keep practicing on your weaknesses. I think practice on your strengths is absolutely vital as well.
Absolutely.
Great advice, Rob. Great advice. Robbie, last question on the social media stuff from today. But it's actually one from Lee Westwood, which is interesting. Robbie, I'm looking for a new caddy. Have you got any recommendations?
We'll look at in all fairness, right? I don't know what's happening with me over in Australia, so I could be unemployed. So look, if he wants me to do it.
Exactly.
All I'm going to say is I don't think I'll be as good as you, AJ, will I?
You're a legend, Rob.
Losing the head cover. Losing the head cover.
Yeah, losing the head cover. Jesus. Robbie, we're just going to bring our sponsor in. It's a young lad, and it's from UGP, and he's got one question for you, Rob. So, Jake, can you just bring him in? Would you mind, Jake?
Hi.
How are you, Jake?
Hi, Hayden.
Hayden, how are you?
Hayden, is it?
Yeah.
Hayden, yeah.
Hayden, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Hayden, how old are you?
10.
I'll tell you what, you must be doing really well if you're sponsoring this event as well.
Exactly. Exactly. Well done, H.
Hayden, come on, mate. What's your question?
I've just got a quick question for Robbie.
Go on, pal.
Go ahead.
Me, I'm a massive Man City fan. My dad's a massive Liverpool fan. And Hurd and Cuz have suffered from Leeds fans. So, and you've played for all clubs. And I just want to know which club is the best.
Well, look, I'm assuming that obviously you're a big football fan in all fairness, Hayden. So I think you should support Liverpool. Only for the simple fact is that your dad is a big Liverpool fan. Yeah. And obviously your dad is big friends with Father Christmas. So Aidan, seriously, I think Man City are good. I think Leeds will be in the Premier League pretty soon. But look, if you want a lifetime of joy and happiness, then you support Liverpool, my friend.
Good lad. There you go.
There you go, Aidan.
That's great. Aidan, hope you enjoyed that question, Aidan.
Okay.
Cheers now. Bye-bye.
Well done, Aidan. Was I cut off then when I was asking Robbie a question? I think I got
Yeah,
cut off.
you're going to sing the song. You're going to sing the song.
You're going to sing a song.
Yeah, I wasn't going to sing the song, but I actually remember as a kid, probably not as a kid, but as a 21-year-old going.
Well, that was a long time ago, Eddie, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, exactly. And I remember the cop just singing his song, and I just chuckled. I didn't know it at the time, and it made me chuckle. And they said, "We all live in a Robbie Fowler house, a Robbie Fowler house, a Robbie Fowler house." I mean, that was absolutely. I was sat there, and you could hear it absolutely perfect. I thought, absolutely, the comedy and some of the songs they sing, the Scousers. I just thought that is genius, absolutely genius. Made me chuckle.
How does it go again, Eddie? How does it go again?
Yeah, you've had to flog them all now, so you don't have to worry. It's fine.
2 more questions, Rob, which we always ask. Who would get you into the most trouble on a night out?
Who would get me into trouble?
Yourself.
Yeah. You know what? It would probably be Razor, actually. Razor Ruddock. Unbelievable character. But in terms of how he'd get you into trouble on a night out, he would get you into trouble because he'd keep you out on a night out. So that's simply the reason why.
Exactly.
And if you're going to have a golf 4-ball, who would your 4-ball be?
You know what? I'd love to play with Tiger. To be fair, Tiger would be probably my number one. Oh, well, good question that is. I mean, are we talking golfers or are we talking about anyone?
Anybody you want. Anybody you want.
Watched an all-in-one live.
I have actually. I've seen Eddie.
Hang on, he keeps telling everybody about this all-in-one, Rob. He keeps telling everybody about it, you know?
Yeah. To be fair, I've had a few actually, so, you know, I don't go on about it. All mine have been on a computer though, Eddie, that's the thing. I've been like 7 inches away, Eddie, look, 7 inches away.
You watched it live Sunday, you were it?
No, Tiger. I think I'd love to play a game with Rory as well. Rory, Tiger, and you know what? We'll throw in. I'll throw in. You know what? I'd like to play. I want to play with AJ there actually. AJ, you know why? Because he's caddied for me a few times in the various programs. And he talks the best game ever. I actually want to see him play.
Yeah, but people normally talk a good game, can't play the game.
And I want to play around with you soon. So we'll go with Eddie. In fact, why don't we all have a game? We'll all have a knock.
We'll have a game. When we're allowed back out again, we'll have a knock. No problems whatsoever.
Yeah, brilliant.
Rob,
and Eddie can tell us about that all-in-one.
Exactly.
Again,
the thing is, Hurd will pick the course where we're playing. You know where he's going to pick. He'll pick Ilkley, where he had the all-in-one in the first place. You know, we know exactly what he's going to do. Rob, thank you very much for your time, mate. Time's flown by. We could have talked for ages there. As always, mate, absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much for your time.
Pleasure, fellas.
Just a quick one again. You know, SGH Sports Events, we are on every day. We've got Will Carlin coming in tomorrow. We've got to thank our streaming users today as well. Simply Video, fantastic again. Sponsor, Phil and Aidan back there, you know, UGP. Again, if you want to sponsor these, you can do. Get in touch with SGH or Hurdy or AJ or anything else like that. And also, last thing on there, we've got the Tiger Woods flag, which, don't forget, we can all the proceeds going to the NHS. It's £10 an entry. You can enter as many times as you want. It's thanks to Lawrence Wells, it's this one. And it can be shipped anywhere in the world as well, because I'm sure we're going to have people all over the world watching this today. We are aiming for 5K. We're going to draw that on Friday. So that's thanks for me. Thanks, Rob, Hurdy, AJ. Lynn was in and out again. We get his internet sorted tomorrow. And we will see you again tomorrow at 12 o'clock. Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers, lads. Cheers, Bob. Ta-ra, mate.